For more on this, we can speak to Nathaniel Powell, Africa analyst at Oxford Analytica and honorary researcher at Lancaster University's Center for War and Diplomacy. Thanks for being with us today on the program, Nathaniel. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron has said the heart of France's military operations in the Sahel will now shift to Niger following the withdrawal from Mali. Tell us more about France's military presence in the Sahel outside of Mali.
Right. Well, Operation Barkhane, as you know, didn't just focus on Mali. It focused on nominally 5 countries, the G5 Sahel, so Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and its headquarters was in Chad. In reality, it focuses on 3 countries where the heart of the jihadist insurgencies are located, so Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, and especially Niger and Mali. Now that Barkhane is redeploying its forces and withdrawing the bulk of them, this is going to effectively mean that jihadists operating in Mali will not be subject to, at least at the moment, it seems like they will not be subject to French airstrikes or French raids, as opposed to those operating in Burkina Faso and Niger, which will still be targeted by French operations in conjunction with European allies and local forces.
Now, to avoid the relations breakdown we've seen with Mali, what precautions must be taken to ensure that French and European ties don't sour with other Sahel countries, such as Niger?
Well, this is a big question, right? Because one of the main reasons that French ties kind of soured with Mali, the underlying reasons exist also in Burkina Faso and Niger. There's rising anti-French sentiment in all 3 countries along the broader region. And part of this has to do with the way that Operation Barkhane, but also decades of French activity in the region, have supported political regimes that don't benefit from widespread popular legitimacy. And we've seen this with coups in recent years in response to rising insecurity. And the French response to these coups, which has been relatively inconsistent, for example, supporting the coup in Chad, having a reasonably accommodative attitude towards the first coup in Mali, and a very negative attitude towards the second coup in Mali, an unclear attitude towards the coup in Burkina Faso. And local leaders and politicians have to navigate a very delicate line between having to respond to anti-French sentiment, having to deal with legitimacy questions that the French presence raises, but also relying on French support for things like intelligence sharing, combat operations, other kinds of support and security assistance. And this is not an easy circle to square or square to circle.
And there are also concerns now that insecurity is spreading beyond the Sahel into Gulf of Guinea countries. What is the insurgency threat facing these countries south of the Sahel?
Right. So a lot of in the past several months, there's been several cross-border attacks into Benin and Côte d'Ivoire from Burkina Faso. And these are mounted by jihadist groups based in Burkina Faso. So there are a number of factors, that kind of push factors that lead to this. First of all, the fact that these countries lie outside the areas of operation of French forces. They're potential safe havens for jihadist groups that are operating in and out of Burkina Faso. But now the northern parts of these countries are also at the periphery of these countries' political systems. They haven't seen a whole lot of investment. They're the poorest parts of all of the coastal countries, the northern part of these countries. So the northern part of Benin, Togo, and Côte d'Ivoire are poorer, are peripheral, are potentially vulnerable to jihadist infiltration and the constitution of political relationships between jihadist groups and local community leaders who feel either marginalized by state authorities or alternatively have suffered at the hands of state authorities, particularly ethnic minorities like the Fulani, who are stigmatized because of their alleged collaboration with jihadist groups, but in fact are themselves victims of state repression and also other kinds of ethnic conflict. But these kinds of tensions can provide openings for jihadist groups to establish themselves and start recruiting locally in ways that can actually lead them to become local anti-state insurgencies, which would then essentially mutate the regional jihadist threat into one that affects the coastal states as well. At the moment, it's still peripheral. It's still on the borders of these states. And I think the French approach to repositioning Barkhane and Macron's efforts to reconceptualize France's security policy is looking to sort of nip the problem in the bud, to try to encourage regional states to invest in kind of social and economic development as a way to foreclose avenues for jihadist expansion, but also provide things like security assistance and potentially combat operations, combat support for repelling jihadist troops across the border. In other words, France is moving from a strategy of trying to tackle jihadist groups where they're located towards a more broader regional containment strategy. The extent to which that could be successful, I think, is open to question.